Now, the starting lineup on the offensive line, J.C. Latham, Peter Skoronski, Lloyd Cushenberry, Daniel Brunskill, NPF, probably your projected starting offensive line right now. Dylan Radins is a guy that could play both backup guard or back up your right tackle. You have Jalen Duncan.
He may even win the guard job. You never know.
Never know. But who, like, you got Charles, you got Rupchich. Who else is in this conversation that is fighting for a legitimate roster spot? Because you kind of have a clear top. I would say top. Would you say top 7? You have a clear top 7?
Let's see. Name your top 7.
So Latham, Skoronski, Cush, Brunskill, MPF, Radins is 6. Is Duncan number 7?
Duncan's 7. Sadiq Charles is 8.
Charles is 8.
I would say that, but all three of those, I would say those guys have a near 80% chance to make it.
I
think that you could look at. They may be curious to see what they have in John Ojukwu. They really love this Cole Spencer kid as a guard as well, so he could push maybe a Sadiq Charles out. But I think that you're talking about a team that's and then Leroy Watson. He's out there too as a guard, tackle flex guy. I would say that they're pretty set, but we know they talked about to Andres Pete. But, then they got J.C. Latham. So maybe that killed everything with Andres Pete. And maybe they're just going to wait until after camp kind of like filters out. We'll see who's doing good, who made improvements, and all this kind of stuff. So I'm not happy with the depth, I guess you could say, after you get out of that. I love Jalen Duncan, but it's really hard to put your faith in Jalen Duncan.
Odds are these guys.
Dylan Radins, I would say like Dylan Radins, Sadiq Charles. Then
okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I would say people are really worried about this backup center position, but people have to understand that I know they've tried snaps at Dylan Radins there in the past, and we also know that Brunskill can play center. So I'm not too concerned with backup center at this current construction.
I was going to ask you, who is officially the backup center? The answer is Daniel Brunskill.
Probably Brunskill. Yeah.
I do think that for if Duncan is your 8th, you have to bank on 6, 7, and 8 playing snaps. How many snaps is probably going to dictate how good the season is. I mean, that's every offensive line in the NFL. Same thing with the receiving core. Like you have to bank on guys getting reps. The question is how many. And I think from a 6, 7, 8 standpoint, if you're talking about Dylan Radins, Sadiq Charles, and Jalen Duncan at 6, 7, 8, I think you're obviously in a significantly better place than you were last year. We'll see. I am interested in John Ojukwu. I think Ojukwu is a very interesting piece for that group. But otherwise, there's a chance that maybe one of these UDFAs makes the team, I guess.
It would just be Cole Spencer would be my betting favorite, but I think that you do have to watch for Leroy Watson being a heavy favorite, even over NPF or anything. I mean, I don't see it, but I do think that Daniel's right, is that like I think it'll be NPF at RT, but it could be Watson. I keep forgetting he exists, and I think pretty much everybody does. That they did trade a 7th round pick for him. And again, that doesn't mean anything, but does mean that Bill Callahan likes him enough to convince Rand Carthon to trade a 7th to take a chance on him when you could have just got like an Ethan Driscoll who may be the same thing.
To me, it means he's ahead of Duncan is what it means.
More than likely. I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
Which to me, if Duncan is now your 9th offensive lineman, when you were asking him to play starters reps last year, kind of shows the work you've done in the offseason. Okay.
It'll be interesting to see how they handle the left tackle spot. Like behind J.C. Latham, who is the guy that's going to be behind there? Will that be Leroy Watson, or will that be Jalen Duncan, or will that be a guy that they bring in later? Yeah. I do think though, Cole Spencer is probably the only UDFA that I would have faith that is going to make it.